All right, so I want to try something a little different in today's lecture. We'll see how it goes. This isn't something I've done in this class before, so we'll just see how this works out. If it doesn't, I'll just abandon this and go to the slides for today. But I want to try to have a discussion about more, I guess, ethics. I don't know what to call it. But I'll throw out a prompt and mediate a discussion and see if we can get talking about something related to web apps. And if the conversation goes away from my prompt, that's fine. But I got a prompt of data privacy. When you're out there, you're going to be writing web apps, you're going to be hosting web apps, and as part of that, most likely, you're going to be, depending on your app, most apps are going to be storing some private data of your users. How are you going to handle that data? Which is that's a very vague prompt, so I can give something more specific if nobody wants to jump on it. Yes? Okay, encrypting private sensitive information. Love it. So if somebody does, and the threat here is if somebody does access your database and can access that data, it's all encrypted, nobody can read it anyway. So it's a good line of defense, making sure that's private. Yes?
You can do your best to keep away from using personally identifiable information, like user identifiable information.
Keep it what? I missed a word in there.
Yeah, you can do your best to stay away from actually using personally identifiable information.
Mm-hmm. So stay away from using the personal identifying information. Let me ask you this. If you're not using the data, why would you collect it? What kind of data would we be talking about?
Mostly metadata, anonymized metadata.
Okay. Can you get a little more specific? I'll probably a little bit so we can get things, get the ball rolling here.
So, like, I don't know, if someone's joined a group, like a join date, or
I see.
time spent on certain areas of an application, or something like that.
I see. So data you have to collect. So and I'll repeat, summarize a lot of the things you say just so it's on the mic, so it's in the videos, if it's for the people at home. So being careful with the metadata and trying not to use that metadata. So there's certain data that you kind of implicitly have to collect from users, like whenever they visit a page, not have to, but whenever somebody visits a page, in your debug logs to help you maintain the site, to help you find bugs, you're going to track some information, like the IP that was sent from, the user account, the timestamp of that request. So you're going to implicitly have a lot of information in your logs about particular users. So being careful about that, to not use that for anything. Is that your statement? To not use that for anything, as tempting as it may be. So that is very valuable information. The reason I say tempting, it's very valuable information. Anybody want to add to that? Yes.
Well, I guess it's more a question for you. Like, what wiggle room do we have to use people's information? Like, if you were to say, like you were talking about anonymizing data, right? If you were to do that, would it be justifiable to use that data to improve your software?
So if you anonymize that data, would it be okay to use that to improve your software? That's a good question. Oh, and by the way, I'll try to stay neutral in the discussion. I'll moderate. I won't. Sometimes I'll play devil's advocate. Sometimes I'll be the voice of reason, etc. But I'm not putting my opinions out there. I'm just leading the discussion. I'll try not to anyway. So what if we anonymize that data? And let me throw this one out there first. What would we use that data for? Improving our app is out there. How exactly, and what would be the dangers of how we use that? Okay.
Well, you could personalize it, but that also be dangerous because you could be technically profiling people at a degree.
All right. So we can identify people and potentially even accidentally profile them. Anyone else? what would you use that data for? Like, what would be the benefit, first of all? Like, why would we even want to do something like this? Improve the app, but like, can we expand on that? How could we improve the app using user data? Yes.
Well, I mean, in addition to storing like this usual email, you can throw credit card data to check out that data.
Yeah. Yeah, and right. So, and a lot of sites will store your credit card data. Personally, I don't like typing in my credit card more than once per site. So the site's going to store that, and we have this kind of need to have some personal data to get some good usability. There are usability features that we can't have if we're not storing user data. Name, credit card. Usually they'll have you like put in the code on the back and sometimes the expiration date, so they're not storing everything, but there's a lot of information that's on that in your database being stored. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a good thing, but you could personalize ads to be more effective.
Personalized ends? What was it?
Advertisement?
Ads. Yeah, so, and this is the big one that's used out in practice. Using that data to personalize ads. That's like the big use case. We might as well dive into that if somebody has a follow-up on feelings about ads. This is what your personal data mostly out there is used for, is ads. Is there any danger in that? Or is that a practice that, and just throwing out there, whenever we talk about ads, I try to have discussions like this in other classes. Whenever we talk about ads, I think the consensus is that, whatever. Is that how everybody's feeling these days? I think that's where society's coming to. Yes?
It's a hard thing to get because, like, no one wants to have personalized ads targeted directly at them, but without the advertising infrastructure, nothing on the web could be as free as it is. Like, it's hard to find another way to maintain, like, Google being free, so many email clients being free, YouTube being free, but without targeted ads.
Right.
That's
It's free, but you have to give your data. And then you have to consume the targeted ads. Yes?
When you personalize ads, you summarize, like, ideally, probably the user is like relevant to their life. But I almost feel like it makes you notice the ad more. And so if it was just a random ad that I could fill out without, like, think about it. The fact that it's like, I know that it's being personalized to me, it like makes me annoyed. So I don't know. Maybe that's just a personal thing, but it's like, for me, it makes the ad stand out more, which I don't like.
Okay. So
Counterintuitive.
so it's, you're mad that the ad is more effective. So with the personalized ad, the comment is the personalized ad. It's more it's going to stand out more than just a random ad, which is irritating. I hear that so much. I don't want to put on the tinfoil hat with that one, but I hear it so often where our devices are listening to us and then. Hey. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the one point where it does make the ad stand out more, like that's why all these companies are doing it. Yep, let's go.
I'm kind of scared of that, though. It's like, it's okay when that's just being used for advertising, but that means that somewhere on some server, there's a link. This person with this email interested in these things has done this. Like, that data is out there, and right now it's being used for advertising, but it exists and it can change hands. Like, it could go anywhere.
Where could it go?
Advertising agencies keep that secure.
If they sell the data too, if they're, I mean, like advertising agencies, like, hey, give me 10,000 people interested in my product, I'll show my ad.
Mhm.
That's a lot better than just hoping that people want
Oh yeah, it's great for the advertisers. The advertisers can go to Google and say, go to AdWords and say, when people search these words or people, or they can go to Facebook and people who match this particular profile. I want to target exactly these type of people. and then they get the ads based on whatever demographic they want. They want to hit, college students. I mean, I guess that's narrow enough. College students taking CSE classes, maybe. That could be. Can you tell I'm just looking and thinking about what I'm looking at? Are you just saying you love the land? But they can say exactly that. Like, I want to target that demographic, and then get that demographic out there. Maybe they're advertising. Maybe it's GitHub advertising. I don't know. But some tech company. So it's great for the advertisers. Absolutely. And that is happening. And they don't have to, like, there's always this conception that they're selling your data. That may or may not be happening. Obviously, the companies deny that, but they're certainly leveraging your information to sell ad space to the advertisers. That's 100% happening. You can go to Google right now and buy ads, and they'll ask you, who do you want to target? You can go on AdWords right now and do that. All right, I've talked enough. I got to put it back up there. Yeah.
I think I'm okay with advertisements being targeted towards me. I think that's just inevitable. Something I really don't like is a lot of websites aren't very transparent about how that's happening. They'll just have a quick oh, this is a privacy agreement. Just click the check mark and continue onto the site, or things like that.
Right.
And I feel like to the average user, they aren't clear what exactly they're using and taking from the user. And I think that's not good. I feel like they just be like, we put it in text that you could read, but I feel like it should be in more clear terms, and the user should it should be easily understood what you're getting at, or what the site is taking.
Right. In a good rule of thumb, so the end user agreements, there's this big text that somewhere in there it says we can use your data for XYZ, but it's in legal terms and everything that you don't really know what they're doing. As a general rule of thumb, if the service is free, they're taking your data, like probably all of it. It's pretty good measure out there. Whenever something's free, I always like to ask myself, why is this free? Like, what are they getting? It's usually your data. But sometimes it's not, actually. I don't want to go down there. Like how Piazza used to be free. They used to sell your data to recruiters. And then they realized that business model didn't work, so now we have to pay for Piazza. They have a different business model. But you always got to ask, why is this free? So it was brought up of it's scary thinking about, like right now it's ads. It's scary thinking about what the next thing could be. Let's speculate a bit. What could that next thing be? Say you had potentially malicious intent, or maybe perfectly innocent intent. What could you do with all that data if you wanted to do something other than advertising? Yeah.
Well, research a lot of the ethics.
Mm-hmm.
In my group, we did YouTube case studies, YouTube video recognition algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So based on what videos, and that does not necessarily YouTube, Netflix recommends but usually YouTube or actually any Google search really. I don't know, but YouTube will specifically recommend videos based on what you've watched in the past and what it thinks you like. So if you, let's say this is kind of ethical, but anything you like even if it's political, if you search something in that scope, you will continuously be getting fed videos or content in that scope. You will never see the other side, or you won't ever see videos again. It just narrows down what you see on YouTube.
Right.
To the point where you pretty much only see that and you'll never see it.
Yeah, so the comment is with the YouTube, I'll summarize the best I can. With the YouTube algorithm, once you watch a video, it's going to keep recommending videos that are similar to that. I've gotten to the point where if I see a YouTube video I'm interested in, sometimes I won't click it because I know I don't want that type of video showing up in my feed 1,000 times for the rest of my life. So I'll actually avoid that just by saying, no, last time I clicked on a Magic the Gathering video, you showed me these for months, and they're right, I kept clicking on them. But I'm like, no, I finally got them out of here. I'm not clicking on that one again because I know what you're going to do to me, YouTube. So besides advertising, the general, and to summarize and generalize that, keeping you on the site. They want to keep you on the site, showing you things that you're more likely to click. And it gets dangerous, was also mentioned, when it gets political. That very first, like when you create a new account on YouTube, the very first political video you click on, whichever way that video leans, I mean, that's a huge decision. That's probably the way you're going to lean potentially the rest of your life, because those are the videos that you're going to be shown. Oh, they clicked on something that leans left or right. I'm going to show them that side only for the rest of their life, as long as they keep clicking on the videos. Until you deliberately go to the other side to check their stuff out. Then YouTube might start showing you the other side. Yes.
So this was just something on like the YouTube recommendation algorithm. It was an experience I had that was really weird. Was in the past I had like a little bit of like a black cobweb in my eyesight, and I thought that was weird, but I didn't worry about it. And 2 days later, I never spoke about it. I was just like, I'll probably go away or something. And in my feed, there was, out of all the normal stuff, right, there was just one medical video. And I was like, what is that? And it was exactly the condition that I had in my eye, which was really strange, because it was like, I didn't put any information about it. I didn't say, like, I didn't look it up. I didn't anything, and that came up in my feed. And it was kind of like, how did the algorithm be able to develop, like, oh, he's probably going to have this about.
Yeah, that stuff gets creepy. I want to chalk them up to coincidence. So the comment was for the video, a certain medical condition, never spoke about it, nothing, and then all of a sudden an ad for it pops up. A video, was it a video, right? Video pops up for that very specific thing. No other medical videos, no other stuff, but for that very specific thing. I want to chalk those up to coincidence, but I hear way too many stories about that. That one's really never saying anything about it either.
No, because I was
Like they would have to access your camera and see it. Like, I don't know. I don't know. Yes.
Kind of went back to just how, like, dangerous, I guess, talking about, like, political situations with like, YouTube, like, on the side, I feel like that technically be not, like, physically dangerous, but at the same time, like, you can easily persuade people one way or another based on information that you're giving them. Like, my dad is a perfect example. Like, he's all of a sudden, like, super into politics. He's watching all these YouTube videos, and he's getting, like, fed to him. So,
Yeah.
in that situation, I feel like it can be a really powerful thing to, like, have power to basically sway everything, like, in one way or another. And if there's some videos out there that are not accurate, or they're just, you know, you can post anything you want without something out to say. So I think you get dangerous in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just creating more polarization, so
Yeah.
it's not a good thing that you only see what you want to see.
Right.
Become more entrenched in your own thought.
Yeah. Then we have to even invent new terms like echo chamber for this phenomena. It's wild. In the danger of, Google, owning YouTube especially, has a lot of pull. Just to summarize what you're saying, that it has a lot of pull. Like, what if they did show you one side, you click that one video, and they send you down that rabbit hole? When you create a brand new account, what are they going to show you? I always like going in an incognito tab and going to YouTube. What are they advertising? What are they recommending to a brand new user? And it's probably whatever the algorithm decided. I just did that yesterday, actually, and Mr. Beast shows up. Like, that makes sense. Everybody's watching Mr. Beast. And that's the only one I recognize. I ignored the rest. But, yeah, what if somebody at YouTube says, this video we should show to every new user? What if they got their hands on the algorithm and didn't, overrode that and said, whatever the algorithm says, this one you're recommending to everybody. Everybody loves Jimmy Fallon. We're going to show that to everybody. Seems to show up all the time. Or what goes on trending. Trending is kind of a mystery. I don't know how the hell you make trending. And of course, Google's not going to share their algorithms. They're right, it's trade secrets and stuff, so they don't have to share it. But when it affects society so much, should they? I'll throw that out as a question. I don't know if they should or shouldn't. Yeah.
I think recently there was a Facebook employee who came out against Facebook saying that they did research and knew about the harm that their platforms did for younger audiences, but still strive to keep pushing it towards younger audiences and making sure that it's accessible.
Yeah.
I think it like brings up a question of like, yes, there is a certain aspect that algorithms are out of our hand, or not out of our hand, but like when they're effective like that, fine. But it's, I guess, how you implement that to others. Like, if there's a way to notify people more, I don't know. I feel like the dangers of algorithms aren't really understood by a lot of people, and they don't really know what they're getting into. I feel like that's something that needs to be more commonly known.
Yeah. So and I saw the headlines of the Facebook thing, but I haven't. I'm so exhausted on this kind of stuff. I didn't even look into it to see what it was. But I'll take your summary. I'll summarize your summary of it. So hopefully, if I miss something, call me out. Of the Facebook whistleblower who said that they knew that their algorithms were effective on children, that they knew about that and they were okay with that. Sounds like the summary. Which, I mean, their goal is to make money. I don't think we expect them to have morals, unfortunately. So I'm glad I didn't read it because I wouldn't have been shocked. It would have been like, yeah, of course they're doing that. But it's good to open more eyes. But the point that was being made was that these algorithms control so much, and that there's very little understanding of them, and that just being aware of them as the general population, like in this room, we're probably fairly aware of the algorithms, that they at least exist and that they have a lot of control. But the general population might not. The word I think is starting to get out there more, but not very fast. So just more awareness of the dangers of algorithms. Never thought algorithm, like when I was first learning computer science, I never knew algorithm would have such a dirty, negative connotation to it. I thought it was just a really sciencey, mathy thing, but these days, So a lot of you will be in positions where you're going to be handling data like this. You're going to be handling sensitive data. You're going to be handling very valuable data as well. Especially if you're working for a big company, you may have access to a database with millions of users' information. If you're a decision maker, you get to decide, you get to pull all the levers and decide what's going on. What's something that you would make sure that you do in that position to, what either would you do to, I'll play both sides here, maximize profit that's not being taken advantage of yet, or to protect users' data and get us on a different track? What would you do in that position? You had all the power. You control Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat. Does anybody use Snapchat anymore? I don't know if I hear that one anymore. Yes? Okay. What's like the first thing you would do? Yes?
The thing that I kind of think of is to collect only data that's absolutely necessary to use. I think the more you have, the more of a risk you have, the more at liability you are, the more at fault you will be if something happens. I think the best way to prevent that is to only collect the data you need to operate your app.
So only collect the data you need to operate your app, and then just use that data. And then you're fired because profits went down. Gone. Unfortunately, that's the reality of what would happen. But the part you said of then you wouldn't be accountable, for anything that happens. Like, have we seen accountability? Is anyone accountable? I think. No, that's too much of my opinion. I'll stay off of that one. But as far as I know, nobody's been. I don't know if anybody like they'll lose their positions, but they'll get the golden parachutes. Nobody's ever been arrested for this stuff, as far as I know. At least in any major cases, there's not much accountability. So of course you're going to chase the profits and keep your job. I mean, it's just the incentive.
I think that's like part of the biggest issue is that because there's a lack of common understanding about these types of things, Like, I think it's hard to make accountability when it comes to like lawmakers. They have no clue what they're getting accountability for. I think like it's an issue that lack of understanding makes accountability harder and harder to do and less likely to happen because of that lack of understanding.
Right. So how do we get accountability when, so what we would need is lawmakers who fully understand the tech. And those people just don't exist. Maybe this is a little opinion, but like patent lawyers in tech fields are at a very high premium because it requires somebody who went to law school, went through all that, understands the law, and also understands tech at a very deep level to be able to like write a technical patent. That's a very unique skill set. Like, how many people I know? I've met, I think working at companies, a few extra. Maybe, I don't know, just a handful of people who have that skill set. It's very rare. Like, a lot of people are lawyers, a lot of people get computer science degrees and tech degrees, but getting both of them, it's a rare person. So it's really hard to get that. And then for somebody like that person to also go into politics, those people just don't really exist. And honestly, you're going to get a law degree and a tech degree, you're not going to be a politician. You're going to make at least 7 figures. You're not going to go into politics where you make way less than that. Maybe that last part's a lot my opinion. But the first part, like, those people are rare. They're in high demand. They have a lot of options. If you're going to go through that, think about if you went through that. You went through your computer science degree, maybe got a master's in computer science, and then also went to law school. Like, with all that schooling, you're going to call the shots. You're going to do whatever the hell you want to do. And any company is going to say, you want to work here, write down whatever number you would want to get paid, and we will pay you that. Because they need those people. To go back to tie it back in. So it's really hard to get that oversight because people with that unique skill set just, they're just not there. We just don't have those people. In the population, 7 billion people, there's just not very many people who have done that. Yes?
I mean, if your goal is maximizing profits, just collect every piece of data you can think of. The users are free to give it up. Nobody ever reads the data being harvested from these stuff.
And thus the state of the world. So,
If that's your goal, you can get it, you can be lost.
so if your goal, this is an easy summary, if your goal is to maximize profits, maximize the data you're collecting because nobody cares anyway. Very few people care. I mean, you're going to lose a few users. But, if Facebook today came out with a statement and said, we're just collecting everything, no holds barred, we're just taking all of your data, like, are they really going to lose that many users? The ones who are still using Facebook or YouTube, like if YouTube said, we're going to harvest all of your data and take all of your likes and sell it all, just went full all out, we're taking your data and doing whatever the hell we want with it. I don't think they're losing very many users. How many people are going to stop tweeting because of that? Well, maybe Twitter's a bad example because everything's public anyway. But the tweets themselves anyway. Yeah, so if your goal is to maximize profits, why not? And if your goal isn't to maximize profits, you're a CEO of one of these companies, your goal isn't to maximize profits, probably going to lose your job, and they're going to replace you with somebody with less morals who's going to maximize profit. So I don't think there's anyone, and again, I'm stepping into my opinion a little bit, I don't think there's anyone to blame with any of this. There's no like one person or one organization that we can point at and be like, they're evil. I think it's just the incentive structures. That they're built in a way that, not built, but they exist in a way that this is just what's going to happen. When the internet exists, like, this is just the end game. Not the end game, but this is the current state. This is inevitable. The ecosystem that we have right now. Free things where you sell your data and companies taking your data and profiting off it. I think that's just what's going to happen. If it wasn't Google, it would be some other startup company that took over Google because Google said, if you want to use Google search, you have to pay us $5 a month. And then everybody goes to the other one who's going to take your data and profit off your data. Like, it's just, I think it's inevitable. So, and my opinion. Anyone else have a comment on that? Yes.
Yeah, I just like, I think it's also, like you were saying, the state, it's even if someone wants to make a change, like a company, the
Yeah,
issue
they
is that
can't.
everyone else is doing it.
Mhm.
Like, even if you make that change, you're at a disadvantage at the end of the day, because you decided to go for morals and stuff.
Yeah. So on the other side of that, the comment is, say Facebook says, you know what, we're not taking your data. We're going to be this bastion of privacy and not do anything malicious with your data, no targeted ads or anything. You're just going to get random ads. Well, Facebook stock plummets. They're not going to have enough money to keep their servers spinning. They're eventually going to have to scale back, and they're going to have to lose users because they just can't afford to have millions of people using their app concurrently. It takes the huge data centers to run an app like that, to have millions of concurrent users, massive amounts of power being used to power an app, lots of personnel. Hard drives fail, they got to swap out the hard drives and things like that, and just maintain the DevOps of that, maintaining all of the, they probably have some big, a whole bunch of containers running on all these things. It takes a lot of money to run an app like that. So if they take the moral high ground, don't have as much income from the ad revenue, and the advertisers start going to other platforms where they can be more effective, you kind of just die. Like, the app kind of just dies. So even if Facebook wanted to, CEO comes in, gets a whole new board of directors and says, we're changing everything. Facebook's probably going to die. They're at least going to not be profitable. Even with selling data, a lot of social media apps are not profitable. So if they stop selling data and stop that revenue, I guess that was less of a summary of what you said, and more of an expansion. But yes. I try to avoid commercials.
It's basically like embracing it and saying, like, we're giving you personalized ads, like, think of it as a good thing. And that's like kind of like
That-
trying to sway your people. It's not all bad. Like,
That-
we're giving you all these things that you enjoy. And so I think it's also kind of targeting the idea that it also helps local companies. Like, if they're, buying advertising space or whatever.
Mhm.
So I think they're almost trying to make it less of a sketchy sounding thing and kind of embracing it, making it sound like this is great. And so
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of where things are heading, or like accepted thing more. But I mean, I would rather do my two daily if I'm out for now. So I don't know.
And yeah, so the comment is they're embracing this. The cognitive dissonance I have right now of an ad telling you the ads are okay is just baffles me. But Facebook having a commercial where they're trying to normalize this selling of your data and this personalized ads and saying it's a good thing, don't worry about it, we're the good guys, and that might be where we're headed, is normalizing ads. And I think it's pretty effective. Like, even in this room, I think, like you said, I mean, I agree with that. I'm going to use that app for free before I pay them $5 to disable ads, in most cases. I mean, I pay for Twitch Turbo. I think that's the only one where I actually gave money to turn off ads. But most cases, like, I'm still using my Gmail. I'm still going to use Google Drive. So I think that is pretty accepted. And I think that is where we're headed, if we're not already there, of we just accept this as the reality. Oh. Mm-hmm. Which in one way is convenient. Like, if I can just use my data, like, I don't really care that much that companies know about me, to be perfectly honest. Obviously, that one's my opinion. I tried to hold back. I'm trying, but when it aggregates, that's where it becomes a problem. Or not necessarily a problem, but that's where they gain a lot of power. Like, a company knowing about Jesse Hartloff, they don't care. A company knowing about every student at UB, everybody on campus right now, that gives them more leverage, that gives them more power. They can analyze that data, throw all their AI at it, and actually do something with that data now. No, they don't really care about any of us individually, though. Which, I don't know. No, I've said enough of my opinion. Yes.
I think that though your data gets used for personalized ads, I think that they collect, like, not that, companies collect more data than just like your browser traffic or what you do. Like, for example, like if you go on Google Maps and you go to the same grocery store every Friday at 6. At Friday, after a couple weeks, this will actually happen. Friday at 5 o'clock, Google Maps will say, hey, do you want to route to this store for 6 o'clock? Because you've been there the last 3 Fridays or whatever. Or you go to a restaurant or whatnot. Like,
Yeah.
it's more the, like, the implications are way more than just personalized data. But, like, and then that gets dangerous because then if that data is somehow breached, anyone can know where you're going to be at any given, you just have to have it.
Right.
So if they're collecting your habits of where you're moving or like where you're driving to, that's a lot more data.
Like, I was in the chiropractor, it's really bad wires, but I use that, so,
Yeah.
it's not South Campus, and every time that I drive there, it'll give me a notification to, like, call the phone number on the board, like, your captain, and it'll pop up and say, like, do you want to call this number?
Oh,
It's weird, but.
it's getting creepy.
It's true.
Mhm.
It seems convenient, but there's also like, there's definitely negative.
Yeah, when I saw it, I was like, oh, it's strange, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do actually want to call
At,
the number.
at that level, it's a little invasive, a little creepy. So the comment is the Google Maps. If you have a route that you take regularly, Google Maps will start like at the time that you take that route. Be like, hey, looks like you're going to work. Looks like you're going to the chiropractor, and starting to learn your habits and send you reminders. So in one way, it's convenience, but in another way, if somebody breaches that database and gets that data, they know where you're going to be. Like if somebody's, I don't know, trying to rob your house and they know you're going to be at the chiropractor, you know, they know you're not going to be home. They can roll up, pretend to be a delivery guy. A lot of deliveries now are just in regular vehicles, a decent number of them. You can just roll up, take an Amazon box, just walk up to the house, and you know nobody's going to think a thing of it. And if they know you're not home, so that is dangerous. You know, in Google's hands, hopefully they're just using it to our convenience, but they better be protecting that database. Mm-hmm. Oh, don't tell us all that. Right. In passwords specifically, we'll talk about passwords in depth later on. Passwords are fairly secure as long as you are generating secure passwords, if that makes sense. We'll talk about it in depth later in the semester. But the TLDR of it is if you're just meeting the minimum requirements, 8 characters, a number, a special character, uppercase, lowercase, that password's not secure. If the database is breached, they have your password. If they're sophisticated enough. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I hate that. My original Facebook password was just QWERTY. There were no requirements back then until they realized that, oh, wait, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if it's something you have to use, they'll make you change it more often. Like anything with the government, you have to use it. They're making you change your password, and you have to have like 16 characters and all these requirements. Which, I mean, this is almost my prompt today was passwords, because most sites have the 8 characters, uppercase, lowercase, special character number, which isn't secure if you're just meeting those bare minimums. But if it's like a social media app, and one social media app decides we're going to up that to 10 characters, I mean, are they going to lose a lot of customers? Probably. because they're going to set a password. I've done this many times. There's an app that requires different constraints, and some of them don't allow certain special characters, which pisses me off. So I have to come up with some different password. I go to that site again. I don't use the same password for everything, but I have an algorithm. Depending on the site, I'll take I don't want to give it all away, but I'll go through my algorithm and I'll be like, I can't log in. And then I either have to go through the whole process of changing my password or, not use that app. And a lot of people would just choose not to use that app. So when something optional that people don't have to use, and we can see this in any optional app, there's a strong hesitancy to increase the password requirements. So the prompt would be, should we be increasing those? Do you lose users to add security? Most companies are saying, no, we're going to keep our users. And then leave it up to the user to... Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, but if it's something I have to use, you got to do it. Like if I don't think the DMV has accounts, but that keeps popping in mind. Like if the DMV says you have to have a longer password, like what am I going to do? Not drive? Like, yes.
I think actually passwords don't need to actually get more and more complicated, because I think especially with two-step verification and on the use of your data, when they see you in a certain location, whenever on a Google account you sign in somewhere that isn't somewhere you frequent, you normally have to do if you set up two-step verification, you have to check get a code from either your email or your phone.
Right.
And I think that layer is using your data for good. And I personally have had multiple experiences where I just get a random, oh, here's your code, your verification, or this area is trying to sign in, is this you? And it wasn't, right? I think in that scenario, someone found my password, were able to sign in, but since they weren't able to either be in the area or have my phone, for example, or email, my account was protected.
Right.
So I think that's also a really great step that's been taken towards protecting accounts, and it also makes it so that yes, you should change your password after that, but you don't necessarily need an overly complicated password, at least in my opinion.
Right. So the comment is with two-factor authentication, that's kind of where companies are going, organizations are going. Instead of forcing you to have stronger passwords, they're just kind of saying, we're never going to be able to do that, which they're never going to be able to do that. It doesn't matter what requirements you have. But us humans, we want to be able to remember our passwords. We're going to come up with the easiest way possible, or use a password manager if you're really concerned about your security of your passwords. So 2FA seems to be the future. And even then, 2FA is optional unless it's like UB where you have to use it. Then they can say you all have to use Duo. You have to have the security. But anywhere else, it's still optional. They have the 2FA option. So it seems like that's where we're headed as that becomes more normalized. I think more and more apps are going to say, no, you have to tap something on your phone to be able to access this. Seems like a good solution. It's effective. Right. Anyone have anything else? All right. We got a few minutes left, but I'll call it there. For the slides, I'm confident, the reason why I did this, I'm confident I can cover today's and Friday's material all in one day. So Friday we'll go over both sets of slides, get through everything. The last thing that you need for your homework is the cross-site request forgery token from Friday's lecture. So I'll start with that, and then we'll go back to Wednesday's lecture, which is fun, nice to know stuff, but it's not required for your homework. So that's why I could fit this lecture in. So have a good day, everybody. I'll see everyone Friday.